This is such a harking back to the good old days of leather, welted hiking boots that it's actually great to hold. Today, hiking boots are made of waterproof and other man-made materials. They're glued and cemented, but super comfortable on a long hike uphill and down dale. So how comfortable are these? How you going? Welcome back to Bootlosophy. My name is Tech and I acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which I live and work, the Wajak people. This is a pair of boots from India, from the up-and-coming brand Craft and Glory. In recent years, with the rise of the heritage-style welted boot, whether service boot, work boot or whatever, the role of an all-leather hiking boot has largely been ignored. Modern versions of hiking boots are made of man-made materials that are light, waterproof and structurally protective, as well as super comfortable. But their main drawback is that they are not resolable once your outsole wears out or tears off the uppers, and being of man-made materials, they can stink if you sweat in them or otherwise get them wet. They have taken over so much of the hiking boot niche that whenever I say that I go for long forest hikes in my heritage welted boots, I will get at least one comment per video that no, leather boots are too heavy and uncomfortable and real hiking boots are lightweight and nylon. In the 1920s and 30s, when outdoor pursuits became a fashionable hobby, most hiking boots in Europe and the USA were based on wartime leather footwear for soldiers, and these would certainly not have been totally comfortable. So shoemakers, especially those in northern Italy, started to tailor boots for hikers by altering utility, service and work boots to develop more appropriate footwear. The early specialized hiking boots laced up to just above the ankle, like most modern boots. Long before synthetic materials were used, these boots were normally all leather, including the outsole, which could lead to insufficient grip. One of the driving forces that introduced better rubber outsoles was Italian mountaineer Vitale Brahmani, who blamed the deaths of his friends in the Alps in 1935 on inadequate footwear. This tragedy drove Brahmani to develop an alternative to the soles that he said put climbers and hikers in danger. In 37 or 38, he launched the first Vibram vulcanized rubber lug sole, coupled with a better designer boot that laced around the foot, almost down to the toe, thereby providing both comfort and protection. This type of all-leather and recraftable welted hiking boot prevailed until the 1960s, when lightweight synthetic materials became available. By the 80s, the water-resistant, breathable and lightweight materials that we see in hiking boots today had become standard. Leather was relegated to a supporting role, often as maybe say reinforcements for the lacing eyelets or other sensitive areas. Polymers were introduced to make lightweight boots that were comfortable and water resistant while still being durable, flexible and supportive for the outdoors. In time, only some top quality and expensive Italian brands and in the US, Dana, continued to make all leather or mostly leather hiking boots. So it is quite pleasing to see Craft and Glory create a hike boot model that looks and hopefully performs like a blend of old and new. So this hiking boot has a few stylistic characteristics of an old style hiking boot. It's not very tall at the shaft, only 5 inches, so that while it provides support for the ankle, also allows your ankle to bend quite flexibly. The collar is cut with a slight angle down toward the back, allowing your foot to bend naturally when you walk. The tongue is fully gusseted and designed to fold inwards under the lace facings to allow protection of an additional layer of leather at the instep, as well as water and dirt resistance. The toe box is rounded and high profiled for comfort and mobility, as well as allowing your toes inside the boot to purchase some grip. The lacing hardware is perhaps the most iconic of a hiking boot. D-rings and speed hooks rather than eyelets and speed hooks. The top lift on the block heel and the outsole use the Commando lug sole pattern for durability and grip. Now, before we look at the brand Craft and Glory, can I remind you to click on the like and subscribe buttons? Doing both will help me to grow my channel and get more useful reviews and boot comparisons to more people like you. And if you subscribe and click on the notification bell, you're not going to miss any content that I put out for your entertainment and edification. And also, I've put a link to the Craft and Glory website in the description area below. So if you are going to buy a pair of their boots, whether this or their service boots or their mock toes, and you use my link, I'll be recognized with a 5 or 6% commission to help me fund my equipment and software. Okay, let's take a look at Craft and Glory. They are from India, which has a rich tradition of making quality leather crafts and footwear. India has been tanning leather for centuries, supplying the needs of the British Raj when it was a colony, for the Brits to make footwear in England, as well as supplying British troops with leather belts and straps all over the empire. Just like in Indonesia, where the bandong tradition came from the craft and experience left behind by Dutch bootmakers after independence, Indian footwear companies first started making high volumes of shoes and boots for the British during the colonial era. Boot styles like chuckers, named after a time session in the Indian game of polo, as well as Jodhpur boots, named after the city in Rajasthan, both originated from India. Today, India has factories that make Adidas, Puma, Nike, Reebok and Skechers, and they're exported over $2 billion in leather footwear in 2017. Now, COVID interrupted the statistics and I wasn't able to get an update. But in that time, the top 3 countries that imported Indian-made leather footwear were the US at 405 million, the UK at 400 million, and Germany at 340 million US dollars worth. Many of you may know that many UK Northampton names in the boot industry, for example, Grenson and Loke, they have a second tier of their products, with one tier made in England and the other tier made in India. India is the Mexico of the UK. Craft and Glory started in the mid-2010s and was founded by Rohit and Nitika Anand. They gathered together a group of leatherwork craftsmen and artisans from all around where they were in India and started making handmade everyday leather gear. They first started selling their products in their store in Delhi, a bricks and mortar store, and then they moved online and found an international market. Apart from boots and shoes for men and women, they also made bags, jackets and everyday carry items. Now, let's jump straight into the construction. Now, in this case, let me start from the top first and then work my way down. Let's discuss the uppers. The uppers are made from 2mm thick waxed buffalo leather. Now, that's the Asian buffalo or water buffalo rather than the American buffalo or bison, although they do share similar characteristics of having a high tensile strength for the relative thickness. This is full grain, which you can see clearly really, showing off all the craggy wrinkles and pores and hair holes. And it's locally tanned in India using a combination of veg and chrome tanning. The tannery they use is certified, so there's apparently a lot more regulation about the expulsion of poisonous chrome salts from the process. During the tanning, the hide is hot stuffed with waxes and oils and is then aniline finished. The feel of it is light, firm, and yet very supple. It's not oily or waxy to the touch, but there is a slight pull-up effect when you sort of put pressure behind it. Now, while the tongue is unlined, the rest of the boot, the shaft as well as the vamp, are lined with a 1mm thick soft leather lining. I'm not sure what it is. It's possibly goat, but it is definitely very soft and comfortable. I believe the heel counter is veg tan leather, and so I think is the small bulbous toe puff. The back is a 2-piece backstay with the central strip that curls into a soft pull loop that doesn't catch on my jeans. They insert a padded soft leather covered collar for extra comfort, although I find it's almost too soft because as you push your foot in, you have to be careful to kind of like hook the collar back out. Otherwise it can stay pushed in and you don't notice until you walk for a while and it pushes into your Achilles tendon and hurts. The tongue is wide and fully gusseted. The edge is sewn on top of the opening in the vamp piece, and it's then folded over so that it tucks in behind the edge of the opening and forms a puffy folded in tongue. A bit like Jim Green does theirs, if you're familiar with Jim Green, like this one up there. The top of the tongue has these notches cut in, and then it opens up to a very wide T-shaped top. This makes it really protective, and the notches means that they bend nicely just above the instep and don't cut into your instep and ankle fold. I really like that attention to detail. The hardware is all brass. Now, I don't think I'm being unfair to say that perhaps they're not the best grade brass, but so far they've been hardy. The D-rings do make it hard to cinch the boot up tight, but with this folded over gusseted tongue, I'm not sure you can otherwise punch holes for eyelets, so you kind of sacrifice one for the other. This set back D-ring is placed here to pull in the ankle and instep area before you use the speed hooks to tighten, and it really works. The stitching on all the panels is clean and pretty regular, but perhaps not super fine like some better English and high-end American boots. The contrasting stitches on this saddle tan color is pretty, and it's quite eye-catching. Inside the boot is a 4mm thick veg tan insole, and looking inside, it looks glued, stapled and stitched to the inside edge of the welt. At the heel, there are 4 stonking big screw heads as evidence of them screwing through the insole into the heel block. To protect your feet from the screws and staples, they insert a full-length veg tan removable leather footbed. Underneath the leather insole, a steel shank is put in, a small flat bar that stretches from the heel to the forefoot, giving you arch support as well as torsional stability. And then a cork filler is also put in to fill the cavity that's caused by the welt going around the outside of the boot. Then, there is no midsole. The rubber outsole is glued onto the cork and insole and then stitched through the welt's outside edge and through the rubber. The welt stitching goes up and down the lugs without the use of a channel. So you can see that, even with a few wears, the stitches can wear through rather quickly, and they do have this sort of hanging in the air look here. Now, I believe that's not a problem because of the stitching on the inside and because of the quality of the glues used, but it does not look very prettily finished. On most P&W boots, I take their word for it, but in this case, let's see when I bring you an update in a year or so how they withstand. The heel is multiple layers of stacked leather, and as we've seen, I think very securely screwed on. The top lift is made of the same compound of rubber used for the outsole, and it's not bad. It's not crazy hard, so has some good shock-absorbing properties. All in all, it's put together pretty well. It's not Viberg or even Grant Stone, but then what is? On the website, they give you a few videos about Craft and Glory, their factory and their team, Goodyear Welting, and there's one on how to care for their boots. It's a good website like that. They also have their own care products, including brushes, saddle soap and conditioners, but let's go through a regular care process that I might use. As usual, I'd say to you, just brush them when you use them if you've been outdoors. Otherwise, when you're around town, maybe brush them every, 3 or 4 wears just to keep the sand and the grit off them. If you're dirty or muddy, wipe first with a clean damp cloth. The leather is smooth enough that a damp cloth should get rid of a lot of the stuff. And then dry, and then when they're dry, brush them. And then you assess, do you need saddle soap? The Buffalo will take saddle soap, no worries. When you condition, I'd use a less oily conditioner and more of a cream or a conditioner that's waxier for a drier leather. I think Venetian shoe cream will do, but it's probably overkill. Big 4 will be absolutely fine. When it's time to condition them, I'm going to use R.M. Williams' conditioner. The conditioner, not the saddle and leather dressing, which will leave an oilier feel on the surface. The R.M. Williams conditioner has a bit more wax in it, whereas the dressing has more oils. If you want to, you can also polish them with either a boot cream or a wax, but frankly, I'd stick with a neutral rather than a tan color if you want to keep any patina that's building. Now, to be honest, it's a rough and knockabout feel to this leather, and I wouldn't get too psychotic about conditioning them all the time. As for sizing, fit and comfort, The sizing guide on their website indicates that they fit true to size. So as I measure US 8.5 on the Brannock device, and I know I size 7.5 true in UK size, and between 41 and 41.5 European, and my foot length is around 26 centimeters, according to the sizing guide, it looks like I should take size US 8.5 being true to size. However, when you order, in my experience at least, they email you back and ask you to measure your feet. If this is their standard customer service, I recommend that you do. I sort of, poo-pooed it. I said, no, don't worry, I know my size, and I actually regret it. As it turns out, this boot has a bit of volume, despite not having any variations in width from the ordering system on the website. It is a little loose on me, and I believe I could have taken an 8 US or a 41 European or a 7 UK. As it is, I removed the leather insole and I replaced it with a thick comfort/orthopedic one that I bought from a pharmacy nearby. And that also helped to fill up the volume quite nicely. Ignoring that slight largeness, the fit is actually really good. I mean, I can't say that the heel grips my heel especially well, but it doesn't slip if you cinch the laces in the D-rings down really tight. That's assisted by this extra D-ring. The ball of the foot's wide enough not to cause me any hot spots where I often get one, which is at the ball. And lengthwise, I think heel to ball is perfect, but heel to toe is marginally long. I'm okay with that because the best fit should be based on heel to ball, as long as heel to toe doesn't then become a squish. In terms of comfort, the lack of a midsole makes this flexible from day one. If you cinch the laces tight and your feet are snugly held in that proverbial firm handshake, and the suppleness of the buffalo leather means that despite the snugness, it's actually totally comfortable. Arch support is okay, but not spectacular, made up by the flexibility of the sole construction, allowing the shank to hold your arch up. Shock absorption is pretty good, even with just the leather insoles they come in, and that's probably because of the composition of the rubber lugged out sole. The grip on rocks uphill and scrabbling on loose shale coming downhill is pretty good. In sand it performs well, and on urban hard stuff, concrete, it's as comfortable as any city boot. If you size right, I reckon this is at least an 8 out of 10 for comfort. Before we finish, let's talk about price and value. These are listed at USD 219, and from memory, shipping to Australia, that included duties but not postage. So Thursday boot range, and in the category of leather hiking boots, close in price to a Dana Mountain Leaf and Mountain 600s, but those are cemented soles. Their recraftable Dana Mountain Lights are over 400 US. You can get Timberland hiking boots, also cement construction, and with leather panels for around 100 US. So in terms of their price range and niche, and considering they're mostly handmade and use natural materials, they are squarely in the ballpark, if not at the better end. In terms of price to value, I think they hold up well. For that price, there are no glaring corners cut. They're well made enough and they look decently good. They feel durable and protective, so the price to what you get comparison I think is pretty good. So that's it. If you are that guy, I know you'll be commenting, hey, leather boots are too heavy to hike in. Don't disappoint me now, make that comment. But hey, let me know what you think. Do you think I should try a Craft and Glory service boot or maybe a mock toe? So there, don't forget to click on like and subscribe, and then come back for more. Until then, take care and see you soon.